snap. There's the kick. It's gone. Oh my gosh. The kick is gone.
Boston Sports Nerds present Joe's Fantasy Field Goal.
Alright guys, welcome to the Fantasy Playoffs. This is Joe's Fantasy Field Goal. First off, I would like to apologize about last week. I was just very busy at work. I know it was the first round of the playoffs. Terrible time to miss a show. I talked about it a little bit on the B.S.N show. But very, very, very busy at work lately. And then the Pats played Monday night, which was smack dab in my normal recording time. And I had to make a choice whether to record or to watch the Pats for the B.S.N show that we were recording the next day. And I decided to rock with the Pats. Unfortunately, it's actually hindsight. I should have just recorded a field goal. It was a very missable game. They lost to the Dolphins, but that's just not how it worked out. And I never got a chance to put a podcast out. So I would like to apologize for that. Hopefully, you guys were smart enough fans to make it through the first round of the playoffs on your own. I'm still kicking in about 3 leagues. Second round of the playoffs. Or first round. Some playoffs are starting this week. So, I don't like leagues where they start week 16 and they run into week 17. I don't like leagues that factor in week 17 at all. But that's just my opinion. For now, though, we're just going to focus on this week's upcoming matchups. Your quarterback streamers, your defensive streamers, and your waiver wire wonders. Heads up on the waiver wire wonders. There's not a lot. At this point, most of the good guys are on rosters. There's no bye weeks. So you should be starting your studs. You should be playing the guys who are good. You should know who's good by now. But if you have a terrible matchup somewhere, I have about 3 names, 2 wide receivers and a tight end. The tight end might be the most important, actually, because it's kind of a crapshoot, and I think this guy actually has a chance to do something big. But I have 2 wide receivers and a tight end to help you score this week. Some plug-in guys if you're really in a bind at if you're really in a bind at wide receiver or tight end. Actually, I'm going to add a running back on here right now who's actually playing as I record this, so I don't know what he's doing, how well he's doing, but I think he's worth owning because of his usage. Anyway, we'll kick things off right now with the quarterback streamers for this week, week 16 in the NFL.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong?
Alright, starting off with the quarterback streamers. First on the list we have Case Keenum versus a very poor Green Bay Packers defense. They gave up 31 points to Carolina. Cam Newton looked like a fucking stud against them. Case Keenum should be fine. I'd imagine that Minnesota's defense holds Aaron Rodgers somewhat in check if he even plays. I mean, they're almost pretty much mathematically eliminated at this point. I don't know why they would even play him and risk another injury. But if they choose to play him, I think Minnesota's defense is good enough to keep him in check and give Case Keenum the ball enough times, while also keeping the game close enough where it makes sense to throw. And I think he can get it done in the fantasy playoffs for you this week. Next on the list is Jared Goff. He is playing Tennessee. Jared Goff and the Rams just beat the ever-loving snot out of the Seattle Seahawks, like 42-7. And Tennessee, even with how banged up Seattle's defense is, Tennessee's defense is still worse. So I like Jared Goff this week, just a cake matchup. Next we have, speaking of cake matchups actually, next we have Mitch Trubisky. He's playing Cleveland. You should just start everyone who plays Cleveland. They are currently defeated. I don't think they'll win a game all year. I've been on that train all year. So, and Mitch Trubisky actually looked pretty good the last game I saw him in. I think he threw a couple picks against the Lions, but he didn't play bad eye test wise. He didn't seem that bad. So, granted, I was only semi paying attention at a Christmas party, but I liked what I saw when I was looking at the television screen for Mitch Trubisky, and he's playing a cake matchup versus Cleveland. Ooh, I am yawning at an alarming rate. I just want to let that be known. Next on the list, we have Blaine Gabbert versus the Giants. I'm kind of iffy on this one. Blaine Gabbert hasn't looked too hot. The Giants played the Eagles tough, but neither defense looked great. So I'm just kind of going off the fact that the Giants' defense still looked like shit. So Blaine Gabbert's probably my least favorite out of all these guys, but he's probably the most available. Mitch Trubisky's probably available too. I would go with Blaine Gabbert as a last resort kind of dude. Next on the list, we have Blake Bortles versus San Francisco. This might actually be my favorite. Blake Bortles is playing at fucking insane levels right now. He's looked unbelievable. San Francisco, even with all of the greatness that is Jimmy Garoppolo, their defense is still trash. So I'm expecting Blake Bortles to have another big week. He's really stepped up when they need him to, and the Jags look unbelievable, and I expect him to have... The only thing I'm worried about with Blake Bortles this week is the game getting away from San Francisco, so it's like a huge blowout win for the Jaguars, and they just switch to nothing but the run really early. That's the only thing I'm worried about, but other than that, I think Blake Bortles looks amazing, and I would love to play him in the fantasy playoffs this year. And last on the list is actually a late addition. I can't believe I almost forgot him. Is the one and only Nick Foles stepping in for Carson Wentz with the torn ACL this year. Unfortunately, sad for Philly fans. But Nick Foles, don't sleep on Nick Foles. He has been fucking great. In the past, he had that record that Brady broke last year. But before that, I mean, he had that record and he played really well. And then he got... People think he's bad because of the years he spent with Jeff Fisher, but that's really because Jeff Fisher is just fucking horrendous as a head coach of the NFL, and I don't think it has anything really to do with how good or bad Nick Foles is. I actually think Nick Foles can be a very good quarterback when put in the right situation. There really isn't a much better situation in the NFL outside of the Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's in one of those two. So I like Nick Foles. The Raiders' defense is also trash, and he just tossed... Oh, Jesus. I cannot stop yawning. He just tossed 4 touchdown passes against a equally trash New York Giants defense, but I think the Raiders might be even worse. I'm expecting Nick Foles to have another big game. He might be my second favorite streamer on this list, and maybe even first because I don't feel like he has that blowout, but that huge blowout, straight to run kind of potential that Blake Bortles has. But that's it for the QB streamers. Moving into the defensive streamers, I'm going to take the Rams defense versus the Titans. The Titans have not impressed me on offense, on defensive side this year. I know they are a playoff team. I think that comes with just playing in a terrible conference, or a terrible division and kind of conference. And the Rams have looked unbelievable. So I'm going to roll with the Rams. they're also probably taken. But if they aren't, I like them this week versus the Titans. One team that's most surely not taken is the Bears versus the Browns. They're playing the Browns. It's like guaranteed the Browns turn the ball over at least once a game. And you want whatever defense is going to benefit from that. And this week it is going to be the Bears, who actually have a sneaky good defense anyway. So I really like that matchup, and it's probably the most likely to be there out of the remaining teams. So that's probably going to be the one most used by you guys. This is the Bears versus the Browns, and you should be very confident in it. I'm not expecting the Bears to lose that game. I'm not expecting, even if the Bears do lose that game, I'm not expecting it to be a shootout by any means. The Panthers versus the Bucks is my next one. I really like the Panthers in this. Jameis Winston is so busy eating W's that he forgets to throw to the correct team sometimes. And I think the Panthers' defense already is pretty stingy. And the Bucks have not been impressive. I would not be surprised if Dirk Cutter's gone at the end of the year. And I'm a big fan of the Panthers' defense right now. So I'm going with the Panthers versus the Bucks, trying to get some turnover points there. Next we have Kansas City versus Miami. Again, Kansas City's defense hasn't really impressed me lately. But they are playing late in the year. Jay Cutler, he blew his load against the Pats. I don't think you'll ever see a Jay Cutler like that again. And he has to play Kansas City. Kansas City will. I think we're gonna get the Jay Cutler we just got against Buffalo, and if that same Jay Cutler shows up against Kansas City, then Kansas City's defense is worth having. Whew, Jesus Christ. Next on the list, we have the Chargers versus the Jets. The Jets are playing who fucking knows at quarterback, and the Chargers defense has been on a level all to itself. Outside of Phillip Rivers having a meltdown last game, the Chargers defense has looked pretty fucking good, and the Jets have looked well like the Jets were expected to look this year. So, and they're not even playing Fitzpatrick anymore. So, I'm expecting the Chargers to have a fucking great game. They might be taken. I know they had kind of a down week last week, so maybe they're available. Some people are not buying into the Chargers. If that's the case, scoop them up, because I think they'll be perfectly fine. Last but not least, we have the Cardinals versus the Giants. The Giants are the Giants. They are right there. I know it's weird to say, because they've been pretty fucking good for pretty long. But the Giants are in the same boat as the Jets, as the Browns, as Miami, as fucking all the terrible teams in the NFL. The Giants are right there. San Francisco, the Bears, the Giants are in that category. They are not an upper echelon team, especially not on offense. And the Cardinals have a pretty good defense. They don't have an amazing defense, but they have a decent defense. And I think they can get the job done against the Giants and maybe even get some picks or fumbles or a defensive score. None of that would be shocking to me. But that's it. That's it for my defensive streamers. We are going to move on to Waiver Wire Wonders.
And I wonder if you know the wonder of it all.
Alright, and now we are on to Waiver Wire Wonders. I have a running back that I added late. 2 wide receivers, and a tight end for you, but also the huge caveat that you should just be starting your studs at this point. Obviously, if you really don't like a matchup, or if you just think that one of these guys is a better play, you could do a spot start. If you don't have a better person on your roster, this is a win at all cost game, obviously, in the playoffs. So, if you are the favored team, if I'm the favored team, I like to go kind of the safe route and play my big name guys and then fill it in with guys I know who will perform at least okay, as opposed to huge boom or bust guys. If I'm the unfavored guy, if I'm, let's say, the 4 seed going up against the 1 seed, or in one league I made the playoffs as an 8 seed and managed to win the first round, and it looks like I'm going to win the second round and go to the championship game as the 8 seed in an 8-man playoff, which is fucking ridiculous. But that is just strictly boom or bust kind of shit that I'm playing to try and beat these guys. I have no I should have no shot of beating, and it's been working so far. So first on the list is Peyton Barber. He was the late addition at running back that I completely forgot about. He is currently the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because, well, it's been a combination of Doug Martin being hurt, and I just think he's been playing better than Doug Martin has since he came back. He's owned in 15.7% of leagues, and he's averaging right around 15 to 17 attempts a game. And he's been playing pretty well. He's got he had a 100-yard game, and then he had 12 rushes for 58 yards and 12 rushes. Right now he has 12 rushes for 46 yards, but they're still playing that game. He's also been catching the ball out of the backfield a little. He hasn't been overly performing, but a starting running back this late in the season, I mean, we're talking the end of the season. We're in the playoffs. Starting running back in the playoffs, you can't really pass up on, and he's only owned at 15.7%, like I said, so he should be scooped up. Next on the list, we have Keelan Cole for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has caught a touchdown in the last 3 games, and he is only owned in 1.2% of leagues. He also had a fucking monster game this week. I'm trying to look up the stat line right now. Here it is. 7 receptions for 186 yards and a touchdown and a whopping 30 points in one of my leagues. A half-point PPR league. And he has a touchdown in the last 3 weeks, at least 3 targets and 50 yards, at least 3 receptions and 50 yards the last 3 weeks, and also a touchdown the last 3 weeks. 12.4, 17.4, and 30.1 are the point totals he put up. And I wrote down in here juicy matchup just looking at this week's matchup, but now I have his whole schedule in front of me. The next 2 games on his schedule are at San Francisco and at Tennessee. So if you are in one of those leagues where you play into week 17, this guy is a great pickup. If you need a spot start at wide receiver, or if you just want to add some depth for the rest of the playoffs, this guy is a fucking great pickup. At least so people can't use him against you. He has a great matchup against San Francisco, and he's only owned in 1.2% of leagues, so he's definitely out there. He's emerging as a threat, and he has fucking super juicy matchups at the end of the year. I really like Keelan Cole. Next on the list is a dude I can't even believe is even close to my threshold. He's a little above it. I dropped my pen. He's a little above it at 56% owned. My threshold is usually 50% and below. He's at 56. But Randall Cobb is only 56% owned. Yes, that Randall Cobb. The Randall Cobb that was not that long ago the fucking stud receiver for the Green Bay Packers. He is only owned in 56% of the leagues. And he is one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets. Aaron Rodgers is back. It looks like Devontae Adams might miss a game. Jordy Nelson has looked so pretty much the entire year. Nothing really flashy. Aaron Rodgers comes back, and he targets Randall Cobb an insane amount. I'm trying to look up his stat line now, too. I think he had 7 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. Nice 17.9 point total. And then the week before, Aaron Rodgers came back with I can't think of the kid's name right now who backed up Aaron Rodgers that entire time, but he had 8 receptions only for 39 yards, but he's getting the targets. The only thing I don't like about him is he's playing Minnesota. Which isn't a great matchup, but he's probably the third. Well, he'll be the second if Devonta Adams really is out. But if he's not out, then he drops to probably the third coverage guy is gonna be covering Randall Cobb, and it's fucking Randall Cobb. He should be owned. He's only owned to 56% of leagues. You should be able to find a spot on your bench for Randall Cobb. So pick him up. Please pick up Randall Cobb. There's no reason he should be only on 56% of leagues. Last on the list is Antonio Gates. Now, if you are in the dumpster fire that is currently the tight ends, you're looking for any sort of matchup advantage you can get. And people aren't paying attention to tight ends this early in the waiver wire thing. So if you listen to this on Tuesday when it comes out, you'll know Hunter Henry has a lacerated kidney. He is going to be the Hunter Henry has a lacerated kidney, so that means Antonio Gates is uncontested as the tight end of the Los Angeles Chargers, I'm sorry. And they are playing the Jets, and then they are playing Oakland. Two terrible teams, and you have no competition for touches as a tight end. And we already know Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers have a very, very good vibe, a very good chemistry already as a duo, and he no longer has to worry about Hunter Henry. I cannot stress enough the fact that not having to worry about Hunter Henry taking touches away is a huge, huge deal. So, if you have a fucking dumpster fire at tight end, or you need some stability, you can have Antonio Gates versus the Jets and versus Oakland to end the season. Two bad defenses. And Antonio Gates, uncontested as the tight end, catching passes from Phillip Rivers just like the old days. He's a touchdown threat. He's a tight end one threat if he's uncontested and the lead tight end there. So I'm big on Antonio Gates the next 2 weeks if you need help at tight end. And that's it for this week. I'm not going to go over the games. Like I said, start your studs. You guys should be able to make good calls. You know who the bad defenses are at this point. You know who the good defenses are, who not to play against. Like, obviously, I'm trying to stay away from any wide receivers that have to play the Jaguars. Which I don't have that in front of me right now. Oh, San Francisco. Like, Marquise Goodwin has been great the last couple weeks. Same with Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm fading hard on Jimmy Garoppolo and Marquise Goodwin. I don't want any business with that Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And, go on down the line there. Just, who the good defenses and the bad defenses are. So, play your matchups smart and work this waiver wire to your advantage. Go get your streamers. Go get your defenses to play. Line all your cards up. Make that championship push. We're in it to win it. We're in the final round here, or the second to last round. Or you have one of those weird, where it's like a 2-week matchup, but it's the same matchup, but it counts for 2-week scores. We're trying to win championships here, and hopefully this is the advice that puts you over the edge. Thanks for listening to Joe's Fantasy Field Goal all year long. We'll have one more show to navigate Week 17 for any random stragglers who aren't all the way through their fantasy season yet. Week 17 can be a weird one because of people sitting and all that kind of nonsense. So we'll have one more show to get through Week 17, and then the field goal is retired until next year. And I'll have an inner discussion whether I want to bring it back or not. It might take the form as a written column, but that's to be decided. For right now, thank you guys for listening to the Joe's Fantasy Field Goal. I'll see you next week for our final episode, and good luck.